The Twilight Zone and Dexter both arose in times shortly after catastrophic events in American history that defined each respective era and prescribed a large economic, political, and cultural shift. During both periods, citizens were filled with fears of invasion, suspicion of the ordinary, and overall fear and anxiety, as exemplified in the new exhibit and Born Free. In both the 1960s and the early 2000s, the U.S. government mandated return to normalcy campaigns, encouraging citizens to move past traumatic incidents and periods of intense change as if nothing had happened. The ideas of good versus bad, right versus wrong, and becoming model citizens were hammered into the brains of the public by carefully controlled television programming. Consequently, each era had a subsequent rise in bizarre programming with supernatural, crime, and horror themes, as citizens coped with their emotions by identifying with such programs to alleviate their anxieties. The lines between good and bad, ordinary and wild, were sometimes blurred, and media culture reflected that. The Twilight Zone is a sci-fi thriller anthology series, the first of its kind, presented by Rod Serling through CBS. The show features a new cast and story every episode, each with its unique lesson to be learned. At its conclusion, the allegorical moral lesson is rehashed by the omniscient Serling's cryptic words. The Twilight Zone was born out of a tumultuous socio-political climate, post-World War II, amid the Cold War, and at the start of the Vietnam War. The U.S. was in full-fledged suburbia. Predominantly white citizens faced unrest as xenophobia, homophobia, and racism, as well as the fear of invasion and sudden attacks, grew. Citizens were becoming increasingly uneasy with the conformity demanded by suburban living. People were suspicious of evil hiding in plain sight and growing wary of constant surveillance, both by peering eyes of neighbors and by new technology. These fears were amplified by the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962 and the JFK assassination of 1963. The Twilight Zone was one of a kind in its ability to get away with things. It addressed social topics from racism and xenophobia to things such as the power of fate, the fatality of man, the dangers of conformity and manipulation, anti-McCarthyism, and atomic warfare. It also included themes of justice and seemed to be dismantling the post-World War II ideal of a collective American utopia. It got away with more than most programs of the era, even being lauded by FCC Chairman Newton Minow in 1961. Season 4, Episode 13, The New Exhibit, follows Martin, a man who took a strange fascination with 5 wax figures of notorious serial killers. He brings them into his basement at home, where, throughout the episode, he grows more and more fond, even having conversations with the figures. When his wife, Emma, openly speaks of her distaste, the figures murder her, and then her brother, and then Martin's boss, Mr. Ferguson. In the end, it is revealed that Martin was the true killer, who has become a wax figure himself. The episode utilizes a multicam structure, expressionistic, shadowy, and high-contrast lighting, unsettling, eerie music, and surprising low-angle shots and close-ups to instill fear in the audience and build suspense. It also utilizes jump cuts and editing tricks to shock the viewers and simulate violence. The New Exhibit also features grim, horror aesthetics, juxtaposing typical, living human beings with the hyper-realistic wax figures of serial killers to create suspenseful, dramatic tension. The set design of a relatively empty, dark basement also adds to the fear factor. Dexter is a Showtime crime drama developed by Clyde Phillips, centered on a blood-spatter analyst/vigilante serial killer that operates off of a moral code, only killing people that weren't convicted of their crimes. The serialized show is complex, with a new plot that carries through each season, providing the audience ample time to develop a relationship with the humanized criminal protagonist, Dexter Morgan. Airing initially from 2006 to 2013, the subject matter reflects America's post-9/11 climate, featuring a vigilante protagonist who is the epitome of the public distrust of authority and law enforcement, the thirst for justice, a sense of uncertainty, and loss of control. It also has recurring themes of identity dissonance, moral ambiguity, redemption, justice, and empathy. The characterization of Dexter as a protagonist proves him determinate and hyper-intelligent, which could represent the public fear of facing an attack at any moment, fully out of their control, like 9/11 and the subsequent war in Afghanistan. In the Season 1 finale, Born Free, Dexter tracks down the ice truck killer, a man who had been murdering innocent Miami women and even kidnapped Dexter's sister Deb. As Dexter tracks down Rudy, he discovers he's actually his brother, who is asking him to join him in frivolous killing, uniting as monsters. The episode uses numerous close-ups, handheld shots, low-angle shots, and obscured shots, as well as fast-paced editing and jump cuts, to build suspense and allude to incoming danger. In this scene, the camera work creates the effect of voyeuristic surveillance, adding to the series' theme of invasion and lack of safety in domestic spaces, in alignment with the post-9/11 media climate. It also uses dramatic, high-contrast lighting and suspenseful music to immerse the viewer in the episode's diegesis. Dexter relies heavily on gore and horror aesthetics juxtaposed with neat, conventional spaces, such as Dexter's office space and home, to convey Dexter's moral ambiguity. Early 2000s television had a rise in popularity of crime and murder. Scenes like this allow viewers to channel their frustration and alienation through the protagonist, finding comfort in the uncomfortable. Identifying with a hero-villain that takes matters into his own hands when the justice system fails is also likely a way for viewers to gain a sense of control of their own unpredictable, fear-laden lives. As J.M. Tyree states, America craves blood work after dinner. Born Free provides a representation of psychological conflict. This episode specifically features Dexter grappling with the choice of siding with good and bad, following his moral code of killing for justice and saving his sister Deb, good, or killing his sister and choosing his brother, another serial killer who accepts him as he is, no matter who he kills, bad. Ultimately, despite Dexter being a monstrous serial killer, he still sides with good. While similar, The Twilight Zone took an allegorical approach to instill fear and knowledge in its viewers, and Dexter positioned the viewers to sympathize with the protagonist, asking them to reconsider their moral compass. However, they both include thematic elements arising from xenophobia, alienation, lack of/distrust in authority, and danger in plain sight, disguised as safety, as exemplified by the murderous wax figures and Dexter himself, posing as a model, upstanding citizen. These shows validated the anxiety-riddled emotions of their audiences by perpetuating the idea that nobody could be trusted, somebody is always watching, and anybody could be attacked at any moment, whether by a seemingly safe neighbor, by some unpredictable external force, or by the government itself. Simultaneously, they ask us to reflect on our understanding of morality, justice, evil, and our notions of right and wrong, reminding us that most things in life are complex and layered. There is truly no such thing as good or bad.